I've had a few weeks to compare controllers, one with a set of K-Silver TMR joysticks and one with a set of GuliKit TMR joysticks. They are both excellent, but I prefer to use the controller with the GuliKit joysticks. But there is a caveat. The controller with the GuliKit joysticks also has the new thumb knobs that come with the GuliKit joysticks, and I really like those thumb knobs. The controller with the K-Silver joysticks is using the original DualSense thumb knobs, so I thought the only way I could get an accurate comparison would be to put a set of the GuliKit knobs on the K-Silver joysticks, then see if I can tell any difference between them. This controller has a mismatch of joysticks in it, and the joysticks are fine, but the left thumb knob has gone bad, so I thought this would be a good candidate for the test. This is a BDM20 mainboard, and I've got a Favor Union Hall joystick in the left stick position, and a GuliKit joystick in the right stick position. As there is nothing wrong with either joystick, I'm going to use the vacuum desoldering gun to remove them. I especially don't want to destroy the GuliKit joystick, as they are a little on the expensive side. I'm going to install 2 of the K-Silver joysticks, because I want to be able to swap controllers with the one with the 2 GuliKit joysticks, to really be able to compare them. There is a bit of a problem using the GuliKit thumb knobs on a non-GuliKit joystick. The GuliKit joystick mount level to knob stop is a bit shorter than the standard Alps joystick. Not by much, maybe between 0.01 and 0.02 inches. But the GuliKit knob is taller, from where the shaft stop hits to the dome dust shield. It may even be a bit more than the 0.02 inches. It is just enough that it might rub on the controller case, so you may not know if there is a problem until the controller is back together. I'm holding the board in place very firmly here, trying to imitate the pressure the case puts on the board. The right joystick is fine, but the left is rubbing just a tiny bit, and it will probably be worse once the controller is put back together. So I'm going to fix that now, because any rubbing will make the joystick useless. To get the knob to push lower on the shaft, there are 2 locations that may need to be trimmed. The first is the knob stop here. There are ridges on both sides of the shaft, and they both need to be trimmed. And it is possible the top of the shaft will need to be trimmed as well. The shafts are a hard plastic, but a craft knife works pretty good. It would have been a lot easier to do this before the joysticks were installed on the board. But if you are wanting to put the knobs on an original Alps joystick, you will need to trim the shaft with it installed on the controller board. I'm going for 0.02 to 0.03 inches, just trimming away a small amount at a time. The end of the shaft can be trimmed with a knife, or you can use some sandpaper. It would be better if I had a more solid surface to do this on. It turns out to be a lot harder while positioning it under a camera than on the edge of a cutting mat. If you do go with the sandpaper, make sure the joystick shaft is facing down when sanding. You don't want any sandpaper grit getting into the joystick. That will not be good for the life of it. That is the main reason I like using the knife. With the knife, all I have to do is make sure I keep my fingers clear of it. But on a hard surface, can trim thin shavings off the end of the shaft pretty easily. So with it back together, I don't feel either knob rubbing, so I think I'm good to go. All the axes and switches are working, so it's time to calibrate it. I will speed through the calibration. I'll do the center calibration, then the range calibration. I'll lightly rotate the sticks 3 times in one direction and then 3 times in the opposite direction, and then save the changes permanently. These joysticks do have a pretty good return to zero action, and circularity is not bad, but I noticed something that I have seen before, but not to this extent. I've redone the calibration, being very careful to try and apply an even pressure to the sticks in range calibration. Here I'm slowly moving the stick clockwise, trying to keep the pressure even. Notice the traced range, especially for the left stick. Now I'll go counterclockwise, trying to keep the same pressure. Right stick traces over the clockwise path like you would expect, but not the left stick. It fills out the circle when moved in the counterclockwise direction, and it's very repeatable. The up-down axis is reading a lower value when the stick is moved in a clockwise direction. I've noticed this before, but it was a very tiny difference, and I didn't put much thought into it. I figured it might be the different angled pressure on the stick shifting the controller PCB, and therefore moving the joystick a bit. But that can't be what's causing this. Of course, my first thought was I must have a defective joystick. Bound to get one every now and then. So I replaced the left joystick with another K-Silver TMR. I have to calibrate the controller again. Watch the joystick info pane as I do the range calibration. As I move the left joystick in the clockwise direction, see how it's not reaching the circle outline at the top, which might be expected depending on the current calibration of the controller. But notice as I move the joystick counterclockwise, it's now much closer to the circle outline. Looks like I may have the same problem in the same spot. I'll save the calibration to the controller and back to the gamepad tester site. And let me get right to the circularity test. Clockwise, it looks to be much the same as the previous joystick. Maybe a bit more over on the bottom of the circle, but still very short in the top and especially the top right quadrant. And when I move it counterclockwise, fills out the circle like it should. That I find very strange. Only one thing to do, put some wires on the up-down axis and measure the voltage coming from the sensor. The meter is reading the voltage on the center lead of the joystick's up-down axis sensor. And it turns out this is a very electrically centered sensor, as 0.900 volts would be perfect, and can see why these have such a good return to neutral range. Maybe 20 millivolts of difference? That's quite good. As I move the stick in the clockwise direction toward the up position, the voltage drops as it should, so I hit a low of 321 millivolts at the top. Now I will move it in the counterclockwise direction toward up. Looks like I hit a low of 215 millivolts. Wow, that is very, very strange. And it's pretty repeatable. Moving in the clockwise direction, the up position is around 310 to 320 millivolts. And moving in the counterclockwise direction, it's around 215 millivolts. 100 millivolts of difference is a lot. So the difference is coming from the joystick itself. But I've tried two joysticks in this spot, and they both do about the same thing. Very puzzling. I would like to say I have an answer for it, but I don't. I'm not sure what the cause is. It does the same with the standard DualSense knob, so it's not the GuliKit thumb knob. Maybe it has something to do with trimming the shaft. I don't really see how that would have an effect on it. The part trimmed doesn't touch where the up-down axis arm rides on the shaft. Please leave a comment if you have any ideas. As for the reason for undertaking this project, GuliKit TMR with GuliKit knobs versus K-Silver TMR with GuliKit knobs. I had a very hard time telling them apart. Mechanically and electrically, they feel about the same. So in my opinion, the value of the GuliKit joysticks is in the thumb knobs that come with the kit. I think GuliKit thumb knobs are a very nice upgrade for the DualSense. And as far as I know, they only come with the GuliKit joysticks. So if you want new thumb knobs, go with the GuliKit. On the other hand, if you are happy with the DualSense thumb knobs, then I would go with the K-Silver TMR. The joysticks themselves are so similar that price would dictate going with the K-Silver. There has been some interest in the switch feel of the different joysticks. There is a bit of a difference here. The GuliKit has a bit more click feel, but both the K-Silver and the GuliKit have more click than the Alps joystick. At the same time, it probably takes a bit more pressure to click the Alps switch. I would say the switch pressure on the GuliKit and K-Silver is in between the Alps and the Genful joysticks. Again, not a huge amount of difference, but it is noticeable. Thumb knobs, that is GuliKit's hook, and it's a good hook. Thank you for watching.